We begin in Israel with the latest on the country's controversial plan to overhaul its judiciary. The massive protests sweeping across the country in opposition. This is new video into us this morning from Jerusalem, showing demonstrators gathered near the Supreme Court and Knesset. Over the weekend, tens of thousands of protesters took to the streets to rally against the dismissal of the country's defense minister, who challenged the judicial reform. Last hour, the government of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu survived a no-confidence motion. And we're waiting to hear from him today about a potential pause to that reform. Margaret Evans is on the story for us. She joins me now from outside the Knesset in Jerusalem. Thousands of demonstrators are gathered there. You can see them there behind her. So, Margaret, thank you for joining us. What are things like right there?
Well, there's a bit of a party atmosphere, as you sometimes see at demonstrations like this. Lots of banging drums and music. But don't be mistaken, this is a very serious day, a very serious point in the history of Israel. The people who have come out today have accused the government of trying to hijack the independence of the Supreme Court. You see Israeli flags everywhere. People are holding up signs saying democracy or rebellion, because this has been going on now for weeks. And actually, if we just, I'm going to ask JF to turn around. Behind us, you can see through the flags some of the handmaids protesters here, handing out, obviously, the red capes from Margaret Atwood's famous book. This is a protest that many people in Israel say that this legislation, this judicial overhaul, if it were to succeed, would impact women's rights. It is a protest against what the defense minister said yesterday was the threat to the Israeli security, given the divisions that are being highlighted in Israeli society between secular and religious Jews. And there are all sorts of people out here saying they're not going to let it happen. One of the opposition leaders said yesterday, Yair Lapid, that Israel has never been this close to breaking apart.
And Margaret, we're waiting to hear from the Prime Minister. A national strike is in full swing. Where do things stand at this point this morning?
Well, everybody's waiting. The Israeli Prime Minister is, of course, under extreme pressure. There were reports by some Israeli channels earlier that he's going to halt or at least pause the legislation. But his coalition partners who make up this government, which is considered the most extreme in Israel's history, they will be pressuring him to carry on or potentially see his coalition fall apart. 700,000 union members have also thrown their support behind the protest, saying they're not willing to see this happen in Israel. People see it as a real moment where the country has to take a decision to decide which direction they're going. These people say they're about democracy. Of course, Benjamin Netanyahu's coalition partners say these people are anti-democratic because they are the government that was formed after an election. But I have to say it was, I think it was either the fourth or the fifth election in a row here. So it gives you another sense of just how divided this country is.
Margaret, thank you for this. We do appreciate the update. Of course, it's something that we will continue to follow throughout the day. Margaret Evans for us in Jerusalem.